Welcome to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Two sports talking sports with those in the know on the Brouhaha Show.
Welcome to the Brouhaha, everyone. Marshall Wood along with Dale McKee for another round, and what a round it is. Our guest tonight, Mississippi sports history at its highest level. Dale has rounded up Mississippi sports legend Jake Gibbs. Sports legend, you might say? Consider this. Jake Gibbs led the Rebel baseball team to their first SEC championship in '59. During his junior year in football as quarterback, he led the Rebel football team to a win in the Sugar Bowl over the LSU Tigers. We're going to probably hear about that series, the 1 and 2 games of that year. In his senior year in 1960, he led the Rebels to a national championship in football, named All-SEC, All-American, and finished third in the Heisman voting. He went on to play professional baseball and wound up back at Ole Miss, mentoring Manning version 1.0, spending time helping the football Rebels and coaching baseball, leading the Rebels to the College World Series in 1972. Having won the SEC that year, he retired in 1990 with 485 wins and numerous honors along the way. There's so much more, but I'm going to stop here and give Dale a chance to say something. I'm just going to say, wow, Dale.
Well, that's about what I say about when you're talking about people like Jake Gibbs. He's kind of like Mississippi royalty, and so I'm not going to say much else. I think we need to start the interview.
Well, let's do it. But first, let's take a message to hear from some of our sponsors, and then we'll be back with Mississippi sports legend Jake Gibbs.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Do you have any roof damage or missing shingles? Do you need a roof inspection to ensure your roof is functioning properly? Look no further than the roofing specialist Jackson Brothers Construction Services. We are here to service you with affordable prices, amazing customer service, and quality work you'll be proud of. Call us today at 251-295-6442.
The Jackson Brothers Construction Services. They'll do you right. You heard it here first.
All right, welcome to the show today, Jake Gibbs. Thank you, Coach, for being with us today.
Well, I'm happy to be here and talk to you, Dale.
All right, first of all, let's just start right away. Did you have a good weekend?
We had a wonderful weekend. Thursday night we had a Rebel M Club get together when the Arch Eli Manning went in the Hall of Fame in the M Club. Pete Boone, our AD and football player and cousin of mine, got the George Lotta Horse Service Award, so had a nice banquet and saw a lot of people, and it was a great turnout.
Well, it was a great weekend. Tell us your thoughts on the football game against those LSU Tigers.
I had a little bit concerned during the week because, they had, I watched the ball game between them and the University of Florida, and it looked like that they were playing a lot better than here. So it kind of concerned me that they had picked up some momentum, and I was hoping that we could, rise to the occasion early and get some momentum going. But I was concerned about it. Anytime LSU this place, you better put your pants on because there's going to be some loud howling knocking going on, and whoever comes out and ready to fire it up, you got to match it. So I was a good competitive ball game, and I'm glad we turned out like we did.
Yes, it was a good win. What do you think about this Rebel team so far?
Well, at the start of the year, it was probably some doubts. Everybody thought that our defense was going to be improved a little bit better than it did last year. We got a few guys to come in on the defensive line, and we got a transfer linebacker from Maryland that Campbell gave him a 4-4. He has really come on and helped our defense tremendously. He's played good all year. So we kind of knew that our offense was going to be wide open. We knew that we could move the football. We knew we could score points and play fast. So my concern was, in this league, you got to play some defense. You got to be able to stop the run. And we have, I think, gotten better in the 7 games that we played. I think last 2 ball games, our defense has shown some real promise and by playing harder and tougher football.
Well, they certainly have this year, especially the defense. Were you surprised that we had, I don't think we had an easy time beating LSU, but were you surprised looking up in the fourth quarter and knowing that we held to 7 points and we're leading by 31-7?
Well, I looked at back early in the game, the turning points, they got ahead of us 7-0. Then they drove again, and, we made that defense stand. And if I was thinking, boy, if they score another touchdown, we're going to be 14-0, and that's going to be a foul on my hands. So, but the defense, stood and got 3 points out of it. So we're behind 10-0, and I think we came alive after that.
You played the position. Eli Manning played it. Archie Manning played it. And all three of you finished number 3 in the Heisman voting in your senior years. What is Matt Corral? Is he his play? Is it? We've had our Ole Miss has had some pretty good quarterbacks here lately with Chad Kelly and you're going to have to help. Bo Wallace and players like that. How does Matt rate with some of the quarterbacks that you've seen the last 50 years at Ole Miss?
Well, Matt's right in that same class. If you go back to the Johnny Ball here when he had Charlie Carney, at the tail wing, you go back to his time, Coach Broad always had a quarterback under the center that can play. And you go back to Eagle Day and Jimmy Lear and Houston Patton and Ray Brown. You can go back by what you want to. We've always had not only one big quarterback, but we've had 1, 2, 3 sometimes. I know when I was a junior and a senior, it was me, Elmore, and Drifton. I mean, it's pretty damn quarterbacks there. And then you had Elmore, Drifton, and Terry Lee Dunn and Jim Weatherly. Tim Morgan. We've been a pretty good quarterback school. And the offense that we have ran, and yes, Matt, you saw last year Matt coming above. Matt's got great talent. He's looseness. He's smart. He's not trying to do too much this year. He's happy on as a pass. He impressed me more this year as a tough runner. That was done something. And when you can run and throw, and everybody knows he can throw, now he's running the ball. It puts more pressure on defense than you think it does. But he fits right in, and I expect him to be a high pick, and when he wins the thing, I think he's played well enough to get it. So I'm pulling for him.
Well, we all are in Mississippi. Well, let me ask you something. You talk about his running. Do you think he might have run a little too much in Tennessee?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the game plan going in. I think he has a quarterback. I don't know if they've called that many calls. I think he just opened up to him, and he knows he's got to get a first down, and that's what keeps the drive going is first down. And I think he probably just took it on himself that this is going to be a tough football game, and I'm going to have to play really good. So I think I don't know if he's going to run that more this year, but I think if he takes it, he's going to do it. He's a tough guy, and I like the way he plays. No attitude.
Well, listen, back when you were under center for the Rebels like in the late 50s and early 60s, how many times would you have run it in? Do you remember, maybe how many times that you might have rushed?
Well, I was setting somebody up the other day, and he told we probably average 25 passes a game, and we would throw, we could run that about 92. We ran about 50 plays a game. But anyway, our offense is a little bit different. We're wide open, and if you get all the time, you got 3 wide outs on 4. It's a pretty much open lane, but when we played, we ran a slant pass left and right. We run the rollout left and right, bootlegs left and right, and all of those plays, the swing pass right left, all of those plays, what we call action pass plays, and you might end up running, you might call it 40 times, you might end up running 20 times, so it's not play. Run a pass, play offense, the fullback up the middle, left half off tackle, then we had all those play actions that Coach Falk loved, so you might call 36 slant, roll out, bootleg, 40 times a game, but you might go at 20 and run 20. So you dictated what the defense gave you if you pass it or you run it.
Well, tell me, what was it like playing LSU when you were up at Ole Miss?
They were good, sound football team. When they went to the first team to play both ways, Then they inhabit the offensive team was called the Go Team. They had nothing but offense. Then the third unit played nothing but defense, which was Chinese Bandits. But they always had good talent, and they were always well coached. So they're the one team that I think we matched up pretty doggone even from year to year.
Well, tell us about the famous Billy Cannon run. You knew I was coming with that, didn't you? You knew I was coming with that.
I knew I was going to escape that story again.
I'm sorry.
No, it was a tough football game, and it just happened that we had a couple chances to kick field goals early, and we didn't do it. You know, first time we got the ball, we went down to about the 2-yard line, and we kicked the field goal. And we kind of, I guess, settled it a little bit. We had 2 other chances to kick field goals. We decided not to and go for it, but didn't make it. See, LSU played us good. They knew our system. I think the coaching staff knew our system. They played us doggone pretty well. I mean, we had to fight scratch for every yard we made. But anyway, in that ball game, we held them. Our defense played extraordinary. Not too many times they ever got past the 50-yard line. So actually, it was a pretty good defensive game per se. And when I punted the ball to Betty in the fourth quarter with a little over 10 minutes left, I was trying to kick the damn thing out of bounds, but it hit about 8 feet, I guess, from going out of bounds. It bounced straight up, and that's when he decided to field the ball. They had a rule, do not field the ball inside their own 15. And that ball hit on the 11, and I heard him say that, he said, you know, when it bounced that high, he said, maybe I got a chance. And if you look at the film as many times I have, we had 2 guys that hit him pretty doggone solid. About the first step he shook him off, and he took another step, and 2 of our guys hit him again, and he shook them off. And I don't know how he did it on his own, because he didn't have hardly any blocking when he first started the ball. So when he broke loose from about 4 or 5 of our guys, he started picking up some people blocking for him up front. And I saw this happening because I was on the safety valve, and my job was to kind of run him as best I could and run him out of bounds. That's what the intention was. And I made a mistake, and I thought he was going out of bounds. I hit him too high up around his shoulders, which was a mistake. And you know, we didn't do a lot of head blocking back in those days, not too bad like I do now. So I tried to make a tackle, and he just shook me off. And he did it on his own. That was a Billy Cannon run. I guess it was meant to happen. You hear things like that sometimes. But that was the turning point of that ball game. And actually, about the only thing they did as far as moving the football. But, he did a hell of a job running. 89 yards made him the Heisman Trophy candidate. And Billy and I got to be pretty good friends throughout the years, and we talk about that game all the time. And we both had the same feeling that there's 2 good football teams, and they got the break. And then, they talk about the rematch game. Nobody hardly brings up the rematch game anymore.
Bring it up. Talk to us about the rematch.
I'm going to bring it up. So we wanted, they made us the host team of the Sugar Bowl. We were their pick. Then they started putting pressure on LSU for a rematch. And I know that the team met for 2 times and said, we don't need to play them again. We done played them once. We don't need to play them again. Let's go to the Orange Bowl maybe. So anyway, I think there was some pressure applied, and they accepted. And of course, we was glad that they did, because we wanted another shot at them, because we felt like we maybe had won the game first time, except for his run. And but it was a good turn. That before halftime, the Cowboy Woodlands that we went in halftime 7-0, and then that score kind of changed the outlook. Then Bobby Franklin came in second half and played real good and scored 2 times. 21-0 game. But if you go back, all your listeners, and I don't know if they're familiar with all this, but that 59 football team at Ole Miss, during the regular season, we scored 321 points and only gave up 21.
Wow.
Then we beat LSU 21-0. So that year, we scored 350 points and gave up only 21. Now, you just kind of soak that in.
Well, that was a phenomenal team for sure, and that's considered the one of the greatest team in the history.
You know, Coach, I was 3 old when in '59 and '60 when those tremendous games took place, and but I grew up. My father, he talked about that an awful lot through the years, and he died in '96. But I don't think there was a month that went by from '59 to '96 that he didn't talk about those two football games about you and Billy Cannon. So you talked about you and Billy talking about it, but there's a lot of people still talking about that this many years later.
So it was just one of those special nights. It's two good ball clubs. I think when we played, if I'm not mistaken, I think they was the number 1 team in the nation, and we was number 3. And when we played in the Civil Arena, there was 85,000 people in that. They get those days to watch the football game.
A lot of foot going on in there too. Between
the Reverend Holland and them Cajuns Holland.
Coach, I was
the first game we played in Baton Rouge. It was so noisy that you could hardly hear the snap count. I mean, it was just tremendous loud.
And that when it only seated about 60,000 back then, didn't it, Coach? I mean,
Probably did.
Yeah,
whatever it was, they were full and they were hollering.
Oh yeah. I remember a lot of people telling me how hard it was to get a ticket. Well, Coach, just a phenomenal career. You're in the Hall of Fame in Mississippi. I'm sure, in the Ole Miss Hall of Fame, and of course your number was retired over at the baseball field. The first one to have your number retired at the baseball field. Well, let's talk about baseball for just a minute. What about what's your thoughts on the World Series with Atlanta and Houston?
Well, of course, I think everybody pretty much follows the Atlanta Braves. Of course, you got a lot of Cardinal fans in the South too, but I think between the Cardinals and the Braves, they got the biggest following. And I think it's just two good organizations. I like both organizations. Houston has put together a pretty good franchise down there in the last 5 or 6 years. And of course, Bobby Cox, I played with Bobby Cox when I was with the Yankees for 2 years. Bobby was a third baseman when I was catching. And we played together, and he went on, and about 5 years, he was a minor league manager of the Yankees for 5 years. Then he left and got into, I guess, the Braves organization at that time. And he went to Toronto, I think, a couple of years, too. So Bobby has bounced around, and we always stayed good friends. But when Bobby, came from, I think, Toronto back to the Braves, that's when he had all those good pitching. If you remember, in those days, Atlanta Braves had great pitching. And they would draft good pitchers out of the draft. So they built their whole franchise around pitching, and which is a smart thing to do. You get you some pitching, the catching, the shortstop, and center field, and you can fill in. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen a lot of baseball this year, and I'm looking forward to the series. I don't know. I don't even know who's favorite, but I think it's going to be a real good series.
Well, it sure is. Hey, listen, tell us about your when you were at Ole Miss. You're playing football, but you're also playing baseball. Tell us how you went, how you were kind of recruited into pro baseball.
Well, when I played baseball at Ole Miss, there wasn't a whole lot of football people playing football, but here at Ole Miss, we played football by the first day of February. Back in those days, you did not have a real condition. You didn't have a weight program. Hell, we didn't even have any weight. And we always had some pretty good football players that wanted to play baseball. By the day of February, you would be through with the spring game by 28th to 29th of March. And Coach Swayze never started a baseball season until the first week in March. So what we do, Frank Talbot, Doug Elmore, Robert Hyatt, me, and Bill Jones, we was all football players, and what we would do from the 1st February, we would find short heads and help to put baseball practice and take our fielding practice for about an hour and a half. Then when 3 o'clock came around, we took our helmet and our shoulder pads to the football field, and we practiced football for 2.5 hours, and that was just about every day. So we did not miss a day of football practice, and we practiced baseball every day. So when football was over at the spring game, it was over. I mean, there was no weightlifting, no conditioning, or nothing. So then we was able to practice baseball all the time, and that's why we had such a good baseball game. If you go back and look, we won the 59, 60 back-to-back first ever baseball championships at Ole Miss, back-to-back in baseball. Then my senior year, we missed it by half a game. So 59 and 60, we won it back-to-back. If you go back and look, and we talk about the 59 and 60 football season, just think about what the record was in those 2 years. The 59 team was the team of the decade, Sugar Bowl champions, come in at one pole. I mean, the first team, 3 votes. The second, 1960, we were SEC champions, won the Sugar Bowl. So you put 59 and 60 together between football and baseball, it was a pretty good year up here.
Coach, I want to switch gears on you just a minute. We're getting short of time. And I hate to have to say that because this is a special treat for us and our listeners. But I want you to look. You've impacted a lot of people. But I want you to think for a minute and share somebody with us who made a huge impact on your life as a coach coming up. Who would you think?
Well, I go back to your parents. I had a Daddy never played baseball. He always supported me, and he told me many years ago. And it took me a while to understand what he said. But I think my mother and daddy, mother played basketball in high school. She was a pretty good athlete. But we've come up at a time where we didn't have to guard work, hardly we yards, but it was still a course where we were raised on Highway 80s. And we had a neighborhood full of boys that could play. But I think it was the influence of coming up that way to playing ball and having opportunities to play. But Daddy told me one time, he said, do your best, but don't overdo it. And he just like that.
Yeah.
Took me a while to understand exactly what he was saying. Do your best, but don't overdo it, which meant don't put pressure on yourself. And a lot of kids, a lot of players put too much pressure on themselves or try to do too much. And that's the thing he taught me.
What a great life lesson in all areas, Coach. What a great life lesson. Well, look, I'm gonna have to cut it short here, Coach. I cannot thank you enough. Dale and I can't thank you enough for being with us. You're greatly appreciated. You're a Mississippi treasure through and through, and we certainly appreciate your taking time to be with us today. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed it, and maybe one of these days we can have another section or two and talk some more, but I appreciate you calling me, and I appreciate your time.
Well, you're coming back. You can count on it, Coach. That does it for our first our segment tonight with Mississippi sports legend Jake Gibbs. Listen, we're going to take a break to hear from some of our sponsors, and we'll be back with more of the Brouhaha after this commercial.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Do you have any roof damage or missing shingles? Do you need a roof inspection to ensure your roof is functioning properly? Look no further than the roofing specialist Jackson Brothers Construction Services. We are here to service you with affordable prices, amazing customer service, and quality work you'll be proud of. Call us today at 251-295-6442.
The Jackson Brothers Construction Services. They'll do you right. You heard it here first.
Welcome back, everyone. Dale, how cool was that interview with Jake?
That's we've had a lot of great guests here in the last couple of months, but when you get somebody like that, it kind of puts a little chill bump about you thinking about what kind of person he is, first of all, character-wise, but when you look up the word winner in the dictionary, you might see his name listed there.
Yeah, name and picture. And I mean, the advice, I really want to see who impacted him. He went to his mother and father, and the lesson he learned from his dad. And that lesson, applies. It's so easy to overload yourself with pressure. There's enough folks that'll do that for you. There's no need in piling it on yourself in any walk of life.
That's true, especially in a game like baseball that he kind of gravitated toward.
We talked a lot, and Jake talked a lot about, Ole Miss LSU rivalry. I didn't realize that, and I must have forgot. I wake up in a new world about every 15 minutes. The Magnolia Bowl. I mean, I can't remember hearing it referred to as the Magnolia Bowl. I'm under the understanding that, first of all, it gets its name from both states have the magnolia as their state tree or flower. Is that right?
I'm not really sure about that, but no, they've only had it for I don't know,
2008.
Maybe, it's been about a decade or so.
Yeah. The student bodies from both schools got together and came up with that, and named it the Magnolia Bowl, but it's a special matchup. It really is, and one like I told him I grew up listening about day in and day out through the years. What a special treat. We own LSU. We talked about Ole Miss and the big game, but I got a question here, Dale, about Ed Orgeron. He's been terminated. As far as he's been fired. He's not coming back, but he's still over there coaching. And what in the world? How does that make sense in any respect? I'm not hating on Obe or anybody. I just don't understand. You got recruiting to be done. You got the early signing period, and now that's in December. He's going to be coaching on up through into the first week or so. And does his tenure go through a bowl game if they get in? How do you do that? What does that make sense in any way?
Well, I think they negotiated that part of it, and that may have been one of the, you got to give and to take in negotiation, and that might have been one of the things that he said, hey, I will take a reduced buyout if you let me do this. I'm not sure. So it's kind of hard to be on those sidelines. You just don't see the motivation. I don't know if the play calls. The other day during the ball game when he had a 4th and 3 from the 3, and he was up, I believe it was 7-0, but he went for it. And he didn't make it. Would he have done that if he was still under the pressure of if he's going to come back or not?
Well, I don't know, but now I'm under the understanding that he got his $17 million in his buyout too, so he gets his buyout and gets to stay. But anyway, it's a strange situation to say the best. Agree or disagree?
Probably so.
Okay. We still let's move on over to the Rebels. You're talking about a big win. The polls came out to 8 people early in the day, and the Rebels. I don't believe in polls, but I do believe in them. But you can't hang your head on polls. The Rebels are number 10 now, and that's a reward, I guess, for outstanding performance to date, with the one loss only to the University of Alabama.
Yes, and it probably shows you what people think of LSU too.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Really,
That's a world-class program for sure. Anything else you want to say as we wrap up on the Ole Miss LSU deal? We think we about got it covered.
No, I just think Ole Miss played a great game all the way around. Offense, defense, special teams. Punter did well. I think they did great. I was really surprised that they shut down the LSU running game like they did.
Especially running the football against Florida the week before. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, they did. Ole Miss did to LSU what they did to Florida. They ran over LSU.
Jake talked about the issue, and he did, about the World Series coming up. The Braves knocked off defending champion Los Angeles Dodgers on Saturday night in Game 6 of the National League Series to advance to the Fall Classic for the first time since 1999. I didn't realize it had been that long since the Braves had been. In the American League, the Astros took down the Red Sox in 6 games to win the AL pennant for the 3rd time in 5 years. They've been kind of hot. And this Braves-Astros World Series will get underway Tuesday at Houston's Minute Maid Park. You'll be seeing 10-26. They'll play on the 26th, the 27th, and the 29th, and the 30th. And if needed, they'll play on the 31st, the 2nd, and 3rd of November. So, baseball fans, it's your mecca. Here it comes.
Yeah, it's kind of strange to start spring training in February and they ended up in November. Where's the winter break?
Well, you mentioned break, and I'll tell you, we're catching a bad break, Dale, because we're out of time. I appreciate, man, what a great interview, Dale. Well, time flies when you're having fun, and I believe it has flown, and we got to go. Say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
Follow us on Facebook at the Brouhaha. Listen to us Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. Thanks for being with us, and we will see you next time for more of the Brouhaha here on WABO. Take us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Dale McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.